let's get some Darna in this conversation.
Okay, okay.
Basically, gets it wrong all the time.
And I hate to humanize them, but it's hard not to speak in those terms.
Is this good or bad for the future of strategic communication?
Integrating AI strategically into communication practice.
Karen Sutherland, University of Sunshine Coast, down in Australia, down under. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I was so delighted when I received your invitation.
All right. Well, Karen, congratulations. Brand new book, AI for Strategic Communication, an essential guide for communication professionals. Just came
Yeah,
out.
so it did. It came out last month, and I spent most of last year working on it, doing the research and then writing. Luckily, the University of the Sunshine Coast gave me the second semester off from teaching so I could write it up. But yeah, it was such an interesting adventure.
Karen, you interviewed 41 professionals and then you surveyed 400 professionals as well. We're talking about AI and strategic communication. Everything is brand new for everybody in the field. Let's talk about some of the key things you learned in your research. So the first one has to do with the lack of editing, lack of fact checking in AI generated content. Basically, gets it wrong all the time. Can you speak about that?
Absolutely. And this was a big shock to me when I was analyzing the data. So this came out of the survey. The interviews, people seemed to, because they had an interest in AI generally, they were across it. But in the survey, so the survey I interviewed 400 people from the UK, Australia, and the US. And the data showed that it was over 40% of people in the survey only deemed fact checking AI generated content as moderately important, which was quite alarming. And then in terms of editing, nearly 50% were not editing at all. So the danger of that for strategic, and these were strategic communicators, and the danger of that in terms of putting out misinformation and reputational damage is just outrageous. So that was one of the key things coming out of my research.
Can you explain to me how that works? Somebody works in a PR agency. They use one of the LLMs to, get a query in there, maybe write a communication piece. How is this over dependence on AI dangerous for organizations?
Well, I guess it's relying on the AI to thinking it's going to give you factual information, and it could be, say they were doing a media release and they needed some facts or figures or statistics. So just getting what the AI generated and then putting it out there. Even now that many AI platforms can search the internet, it doesn't mean it's still correct, and that's the worry, is sending out that incorrect information. I do have an example of where this happened. It was more a marketing team though, and I'm not stereotyping, but they were junior staff members, and they were. This is anecdotally. I know a sales executive who works in the team, and they were this marketing team was so happy that they were just going through the work so quickly. And she was the sales executive was a bit suspicious and went and had a look. And this was a marketing team it was a software product. And what they had done is they generated these LinkedIn posts about the software product. And it was saying it had features it didn't even have. So it was putting out this incorrect information and really, altering prospective customers in terms of what their expectations of what the software could do, and they weren't checking. So not only did they not know the product, they were just getting AI to write all the social media content for it, and it was completely incorrect. And the damage that can do is quite extensive, depending on what it is that they're actually promoting.
You're raising a really interesting point. We're talking about AI raising productivity, but if the AI models are, they make mistakes and we have to double check the AI all the time, does that actually ultimately replace the human, or is it just a matter of time until these LLMs will become smarter than we are, right?
Well, look, and on fact checking, there was some research that was shared by Ethan Mullick, he's a great person to follow on LinkedIn in terms of AI, and he shares research in the field. And there was a study that came out, I think it was last month, where the researchers used 3 AI agents that fact checked each other, and it reduced hallucinations. It was nearly a 90% reduction. They did about 300 or 400 tests, and it did significantly reduce it. But this isn't widespread yet. It's not. We don't have this sort of technology. It's not inbuilt in LLMs yet. So there is possibilities that it is going to improve, but we're just not there yet as a wider community.
Karen, you raised the concept of hallucinations. For those who are not familiar, who may be watching, can you speak a little about hallucinations in AI?
Yeah, well, with LLMs, they try to, and I hate to humanize them, but it's hard not to speak in those terms. They try to give you the information that you want. So they're people pleasers. Let's put it that way. And so what they can do is make up the information to satisfy what you're asking it for. And that information can be completely wrong. And it can also be quite deceptive in that it might get it right in, say, a longer piece of content, and the rest of it might be right, but there might be a couple of things in there that are incorrect. And so that's why it gives you a false sense of security that it nailed it, and it actually didn't. Like, you have to really go through everything to check.
Karen, your book deals with ethical considerations for strategic communicators when it comes to AI. Can you speak about some of the key lessons about ethics?
Yeah, so there were quite a few issues that came up. Interestingly, one of the ones was around people working in agencies or even sole traders who are charging their clients while just using AI to generate. So how do we balance that? That was one. The other thing is around using AI in a way that's going to put in danger people's private information and data. So making sure that you're not putting that up there and not disclosing. So I guess a big thing that came out of my interview data was that it's really important to be transparent when you are using AI, just so, particularly in things like imagery and videos and things like that, just so people know that it isn't real and not passing it off as real. Another thing was copyright, which is constantly in the news, and it's in the news again this week, where I think people are worried about AI platforms being trained on copyrighted information. So to get it right, LLMs need a lot of data. And the only data that's been available has been on the internet. And just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's not copyrighted, it's not owned by someone else. And particularly, some platforms have been found to be using YouTube videos, for example, and people's artists' music and even artwork and things like that to train the LLMs. And there's been a big uproar about that. But now, recently, I think it was this week, LLMs in the US have said they're trying to get across the line with the US government the ability to use copyrighted information. And so that's a big issue that is going to continue. There's been a lot of court cases about that as well.
Yeah. One of the case studies you bring up is Kentucky Fried Chicken and their brand and reputation in Germany. Can you speak about that?
Yeah, there was an issue where Kentucky Fried Chicken they were using automated, clearly AI-driven automation to come up with promotions and things, and it came up with something that it was I forget the actual name of it, but it was around sort of a Nazi movement. Is that correct? Yeah, it was, and it used that as a promotion, so it couldn't be anything worse than that, I don't think. And because it was automated, you can't rely that the automation is going to be correct all of the time, and it can get brands in big trouble if they don't have that I guess quality control before it goes out and goes public.
Absolutely. In your book, you present a model for strategic AI integration. We don't want to bore the audience with academic stuff. So explain to us in real terms for real people what your model is all about.
Look, it's about integrating AI strategically into communication practice. What I am finding, because I'm doing a lot of consulting and training in the field, there seems to be a reluctance to actually implement in a strategic way, where firstly, there isn't an ethics policy related to AI. There isn't any sort of committee to oversee the implementation of it. There aren't any processes created. hasn't been any sort of mapping of tasks to then identify which would be the best ones to start to use AI with, to collaborate with, to, and it wouldn't take over the whole task, but just parts of it. And there's no strategy for implementation. It seems to be very ad hoc. So this model takes organizations through the different steps of how to strategically integrate AI into their practices, right through from the beginning of developing the policy, through to selecting the right tools, and also through the actual practice of using the AI, evaluating its performance. So Guy, you said before, exactly, that's part of the book as well, where, if you're measuring efficiency, yes, you might be doing something faster, but it doesn't mean it's better, and it's actually measuring the impact and benchmarking the impact. Is this actually working for us using the AI? And also asking your target audience what they think, particularly if you're using it for social media content. Is it actually working? If you're using it like a chatbot for customer service, what's the customer experience? And it's actually measuring those things and evaluating those. And then the key driver of this whole model is a focus on continuous improvement. And this comes in the form of that benchmarking and optimizing what you're learning each time, but also ongoing training, because it's moving so quickly, and even the models themselves there's new features being added, and they're changing the way that they're doing things. So ongoing training really needs to happen. You can't just have one AI workshop and go, that's it, we're done now. It needs to be a regular training, just to keep on top of what's going on.
Karen, your book is all international. This is international research. Can you talk about AI going global? Everybody's always, Western centric, right? What should big brands think about when they go global? In your book, you talk about Coca-Cola as an example. Can you talk about that?
Well, I mean, one of the great things about AI, and this was one of the key findings as well, is its ability to translate into multiple languages and understand culture, if you train it correctly, of course. And so it means that really brands can communicate in a way they haven't been able to before. Only the big brands could really hire translators to do that, but even then the budget was limited. But now AI can do that. Of course it needs to be checked, the translation needs to be checked, but it means that we can now reach people in multiple countries and in multiple cultures and languages within that country in a way we haven't been able to before. And Coca-Cola is a great example. They are now, with some of their advertising, they're translating it. I think the last one was into 40 languages, and doing it in a way that made sense, because sometimes language isn't enough. Like, actually what's in the visual needs to change as well to make sure that it makes sense and isn't offending people of particular cultures. So I just think it's made it so much more inclusive in how we can communicate because of that translation feature.
Karen, as I look forward to the future, AI content creators, I'm thinking about virtual influencers, and think about the whole process of content creation, from iteration, from the idea stage all the way to execution, and then content distribution. When you think about virtual influencers as the future of content creations, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's an interesting topic, actually, because they are starting to really increase in number and in popularity. I mean, there's some on Instagram that brands are now working with, and I think there's two sides to it. I think from a brand perspective, it's easier because you can control everything. So, and you can make sure, because we've seen when influencers go rogue, but it means you can actually control everything and how that's done, which is a good thing. But then on the other side, I mean, you're missing that human connection, and you're missing that spark. And what I love AI very much, but everything I've seen doesn't have that human spark. Even the virtual influencers, the AI influencers, they don't have that spark in their eye that makes us human. So I think it has its upside. I think there are going to be more. And I think as the technology increases, even in terms of video and things like that, I think they will become more prominent. But I think there is definitely still a place for human influencers, because we just need that human to human connection.
Yeah. We need to connect, but it's so cool. I've seen some really, really great collaborations between virtual influencers and real life content creators in the
Yeah.
same spot, in the same piece of content, which is super awesome. I'm thinking ahead of the future of advertising, PR, marketing, all that stuff, right? I'm thinking the battle for attention is on. Nobody really cares, but these beautiful algorithms unfortunately, know way too much about us, know exactly how we want our content delivered, how, when, and where. And using AI, they'll be able to create customized content just for us with the right platform, with the right content creator, with the right style. Is this good or bad for the future of strategic communication?
Look, it's a double-edged sword. So I think it's good because we'll have ads served to us that we're actually interested in, but it means we'll probably spend more on shopping because we'll see things that we didn't know exist, that the algorithm knows that we like. But again, it's that data. I mean, the platforms owning that data about us is a bit of a worry because they know everything about us, and it's fine when it's safe and it's secure. But if that data gets out anywhere, and there's been so many data leaks, I mean, with social media platforms and even organizations, there's been so many that's happened here in Australia over the last year or so, that I think that's the worry. So it's great that we'll actually be seeing things that we're most interested in, but yeah, it's that worry about the risk of data insecurity.
I'm going to throw an idea at you and you tell me what you think. I think this concern is a Generation X concern, the greatest generation of all times, of course, right? I think
Yeah.
millennials and especially Gen Zers and Gen Alpha are just going to take the fact that all of their information is public and they have no privacy as just the way it is, right? And
Yeah.
this concern may dissipate as the years go by.
Yeah, and I think it is becoming a way of life, but you see it pop up when, for example, AI tools from China come out, and there's, oh, don't use that, even though it does great things, but there's just that worry just because it's from China, which is kind of interesting, I think, because the US-based social media platforms know everything about us, and they have all of our data and our photos and everything. So yes, I think it will depend, but I think some, particularly millennials and Gen Z, I think they are much more comfortable with that. But it's going to be interesting, I think, in terms of AI agents when they start to become a bit more evolved, because it means you will have this AI tool that can go off and make purchases on your behalf and things like that. So you're going to have to give it things like your financial information, your credit card details, and so where that level of trust and feeling secure in doing that, I think the technology would be amazing if I don't have to do that anymore, and I've got this, autonomous assistant going off and doing what I need done. But then it's would you trust it to have because AI does get it wrong. So if it's making like purchases you don't actually want. So again, there's that issue, I think, is going to become more prominent as agents become, I guess, more advanced.
Yeah, it's an exciting future. There's no doubt about it. All right, Karen, we can't end this conversation without speaking about Darna Digital. Am I pronouncing this correctly?
Yeah, Darren, that's
So,
fine.
so
Yeah,
tell us about your company, what do you do, and the community that you serve.
yeah. So Darren Digital, we actually, it started in the middle of the pandemic in 2020, and so we've been around a little while, and it's a digital marketing agency. My role in it, I'm the director, and my role right now is I deliver AI training and workshops and sort of ongoing sort of integration of AI for communication teams and marketing teams. And on top of that, we look after websites and SEO and social media. We focus on the wellness space, so we have other clients, of course, but in the wellness space, we with coaches and wellness coaches and yoga teachers and a whole range of clients in that area. So yeah, so that's been a real love and joy of mine over the last few years to do that on the side. And I love it because it means I'm doing something real I can then teach my students with. So I can give them real case studies and real examples of me working with clients when I'm teaching at the university.
Karen, as you look forward, let's summarize this conversation. What are you most excited about AI and where we're going in the future?
Look, I'm excited. I am excited about agents. They're not there yet. I've been playing with Manus, but it's keeps timing out. But I'm excited at being able to have more time that's what I'm excited about, being able to focus on other things than laborious tasks. And I think that's the most important thing that AI is going to bring to us. Also, being able to connect with people from all different countries of the world. The other thing I love and I think is really important is creativity. And AI has really made creativity accessible, where before you might have had an idea in your head and just couldn't create a video or an image from it because you didn't have those skills. And AI has really opened that up for everyone. And I really love that. And I think that's going to really change the way that we do things and how we see creative outputs now and in the future.
I love it. Karen, thanks so much for stopping by today. Have a
Thank
great
you so
day.
much for having me. It was a great
Okay.
conversation.
Awesome. Thank you.